In some ways, I believe that sports have become somewhat of a religion. They take time to memorize stats. They even have pictures or gear or memorabilia dedicated to a certain individual or sports team.
Yeah, they watch it pretty religiously and practice it pretty religiously. So I guess you could say it puts in the same amount of time as you would in a religion.
I don't believe sports have become a religion. I believe they become like a highly intense hobby.
People can get addicted to sports and treat it like it is their religion. But I don't think a lot of people worship sports. Like, you don't, I don't know, have the same love for it as you do for God.
Some professional sports teams fans will take like a hard loss as like they'll think a part of them is worse off because their team lost a big game or something, and they'll mope about it for a couple months, and that's like making it a religion.
I wouldn't say sports is a religion, but sports is a way that I feel closest to God.
Potentially, sports have become a religion, kind of. I don't know that people praise it like, oh, sports. But I think in terms of like what they look up to, spend their time doing, where they devote a lot of energy, and what they praise, certainly sports have become a religion in that sense.
I would say winning and losing can take on more biblical perspectives in the sense that we always say give the glory to God, but usually we only tend to give the glory to God when we win. We don't usually give the glory also to Him if we lose. I don't think we worship sports in the sense that we need them. I think we worship sports in the sense that they allow us to do things that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do.
I believe that sports have become a religion because for many athletes, their sports consume their lives, and everything revolves around them, just like it would around God.
I do think that, I do put a lot of time and effort into it, and I really do enjoy it, but I don't think it's a religion for me.
Maybe when the entire mood of a school is set by a win or a loss, that might be an indicator.
I do think, going back to question one, that sports have become religion for some people. Not necessarily here at Gordon per se. I haven't experienced that personality type, but I definitely see it in like other people who talk about football all the time and prioritize going to games over friendships and things like that.
Definitely say that my Bible study or church event would definitely take place over the sporting thing that was scheduled, because my relationship with God and furthering that relationship through community is more important than playing a sport and bettering me athletically rather than spiritually.
I think I would choose sports over going to church or like a Bible study.
I would probably go to my practice or my game. I think that team time is important, and learning your new skills and executing them well is important in practicing. I can always do a Bible study by myself if I miss my Bible study.
I typically wouldn't have practice during church. Bible studies, I might move those to a different time.
I wouldn't go to that game or practice because I was growing up in a Christian household with my mom always telling me that sports comes afterwards and religion is always first.
I would say I would go to whichever I committed to first, so I would try to avoid making sports commitments that interfered with church commitments.
If I had a good community at a sports thing, I probably would go to that faster than I would go to church.
If you need to, you can do Bible study on your own. You can watch sermons online. I definitely don't think that you should allow that to stop you from playing a game.
If you're supposed to be at a game on Sunday, it's hard to say no to that. So I think that the problem is in which do you choose in the moment. It's what do you make your choice around before that comes up.
I would usually go to the practice or game because I've grown up with my dad as a coach instilling in me how important it is to show up because I've made a commitment to my team.
In respect for the athletes, I don't think we should play on holidays.
They should, because it brings people together.
I do think about football players' families on Thanksgiving and stuff.
Probably wouldn't say sports on like Easter or pro sports on like Christmas, but Thanksgiving, that type of thing.
I don't have a problem with professional sports being played on holidays. My family has a big tradition of watching football on Thanksgiving, though I would be interested to hear the perspective of professional athletes to see how that affects their family lives, so we can make sure that we value their time.
Such a good question. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't bother me, but for the people that are playing, it might bother them, but at the same time, they're also like making so much money. So, personally, I don't have any problem with it.
I definitely don't think it's a bad thing, because I think like a lot of what sports do is they bring people together.
Christmas, Easter, I think probably no, they probably shouldn't, mostly so that they can have the focus be on the holiday and not their sport necessarily.
Although playing sports like football on Thanksgiving is a long-standing tradition, I believe that professional sports should not be played on religious holidays because athletes should have the opportunity to spend time with their family and worshiping God.
It is the Sabbath, and I personally believe that that is not something that they should be doing.
Christian athletes should be allowed to practice and do games on Sundays because when the team is together, technically a church is where a group of followers are gathered. So if you share a devo or a prayer and you are most likely close with your teammates, then I feel like that kind of doesn't substitute as church, but it fills in and it still gives you what you spiritually need.
I don't think they should, because that day is dedicated to God and to go to church and spend that day for Him.
I don't have any problem with having practices or games on Sunday. For me, doing my long runs on Sundays was how I prayed and reflected and connected with the Lord. That's where I felt the closest.
I actually think that they should practice on Sundays, primarily because it's actually a really good way to be involved with community at large. So if we look at church as something that's important, it might be bad that they're going to practice or like playing games on Sundays. But when we look at Christianity as a whole and what we're meant to be doing as Christians, we're actually meant to be engaging with the world and cultures at large. And I think sports is a really great avenue to do that. So yet again, I don't personally have much problem with that.
Tough call. I do like to prioritize going to church and that side of spiritual formation, but sometimes things have to happen. I don't think practices should take place on Sunday unless they're completely voluntary. I also don't believe worship is contained just in church on Sunday. And so I think that changes my answer a little bit so I don't always get to go to church because I have other obligations, but I'm still going to make time for spiritual development throughout the week, whether that's Bible study by myself or with others, or just getting together to pray with a friend. Not necessarily here at Gordon per se. I haven't experienced that personality type, but I definitely see it in other people who talk about football all the time and prioritize going to games over friendships and things like that. So I hope that helps a little bit, and I kind of look forward to seeing what you've put together. Thanks.
The Sabbath is important, but I don't think it should necessarily be determinant of when you rest. You can take a rest during any day of the week.
I say no. I think our increasingly tolerant world has become intolerant of Christians and have forced us to compete on Sundays and practice on Sundays so we can fit in and get games in and compete in championships, when what's more important? That we live our faith out the way we should, or should we allow the world to dictate when we play, when we practice, and who we are?